All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to today's APAC community call. So today we'll be giving everyone a updates on 4 different working groups. And so with that, well, first kind of for our agenda. So again, we'll start with the news from Odyssey in general, and then we'll start kind of our working group updates with Chen here to give us a live presentation on the medical imaging working group. And then we will be playing the videos from the global calls on CDM working group, data quality working group, and also I think everyone's very interested in the Atlas working group update. So that's for our agenda today. And then as for the news, I think so we were kind of talking about the global symposium in the last community call, but then today we really want to emphasize again now that it's open for everyone to register. And also please know that if you click in, there will be a 500 fee, but you can waive that by email the symposium at odyssey.org email address to waive that. So definitely don't stop there if that's that's a problem. So there is a way to waive it. And also, as you can see here, not only the symposium has been open for registration, we have also for like the tutorials and everything are now open. So please check it out on the Odyssey website to get more information. And then that's for kind of the Odyssey update. And then there are, of course, more that you can find on the news section. So with that, I will turn to Chen, who is now the research assistant professor from Yonsei University, and then he will be sharing with us the working group update for the medical imaging work group. So Chen, I think you. Okay, yeah, I can see the slide. We can see the slide. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'd like to introduce the medical image work group. I'm Chan from Yonsei University, Korea. So you can see the whole, right? Okay. Why?
So it's
A little
kind
bit
of
weird.
yeah, it's a little bit weird. I was
Okay.
gonna say that because it has the team saying on the border.
Right. You know, is it now clear? Like you can see the title of the slide, like how Odyssey.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, this is how Odyssey works. We standardize our patient level data into OMOP CDM inside the firewall, and this is a standardized de-identified patient level data. And we usually import the standardized large scale analytics into the institution inside the firewall, and we execute this analytics, and then we share the results without patient level data. And why do we need more data, especially for medical images? This is the white paper from the 2016 CMIMI meeting dataset session. And they agree that the common theme from attendees was that everyone participating in medical image evaluation with machine learning is data starved. We are data starved. And there is an urgent need to find better ways to collect, annotate, and reuse medical imaging data. That's why we started to standardize the medical data. And this is a paradigm of Odyssey or distributed research network. We rather than gather the data into the one single center, we are using the distributed research network. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Don't know how I can. Okay, this is maybe better. Okay, you can see the title of the slide. Okay, so this is how Odyssey works. We do not collect the data from each institution. Rather, we bring the algorithm to the data. So it's kind of the paradigm shift, especially for machine learning. And these are the goals of medical imaging work group. We try to develop the ability to bring features derived from the medical images into OMOP data model while maintaining provenance. And we try to develop ability to perform cohort definitions in the Odyssey for medical imaging research studies. It means that we make some data from the medical imaging queryable in the OMOP CDM. And we'll try to support deep learning research on medical images as part of prediction modeling in Atlas or in Odyssey. And we'll try to develop infrastructure for reproducible research on medical images. And as you might know that there is really challenging, it is really challenging to develop the reproducible research based on medical images because we do not have really standardized data set. And we'd like to evaluate federated learning as part of a network study. And this is the objective and key results for 2022 in medical image workgroup. Our objective in this year is defining feasible medical imaging data model for MOP CDM. And as a key results, we will get a imaging data model proposed to and accepted by the CDM workgroup. We will publish a paper on the imaging data model within this year. And this is a race. Which institution will be the reference institution for imaging data model? And in this race, I believe that Stanford and Hopkins and Yale University are on this race. We define 3 use cases with using three different modalities in radiology. First one is lung cancer and tracking pulmonary nodules in chest CT. Second use case is breast cancer and mammogram. Third one we will focus on a brain tumor on the brain MRI. So we picked these 3 use cases to identify our goals and our directions to develop the data model. And this work group actually originated from my previous work on radiology CDM. You can see this paper in the published in Yonsei Medical Journal in this year. You know that even though there is a DICOM standard for medical images, but there are the metadata of DICOM or headers in DICOM are not standardized and really diverse. There are really diverse descriptions for one single identical radiology study like brain CT. These are the descriptions for brain CT, and I do believe that your institution has more diverse heterogeneous terms for brain CT. And when we reviewed the chest CT images, we found that 14% of them actually are not a PA view. It was AP view, anterior posterior view, or there are lateral view in the chest PA images, which when we identify the chest PA as by using the metadata in the DICOMs. So there are really many faulty and missing values in metadata of DICOMs. So we try to standardize the metadata of DICOM and capture the essential information of these metadata into a MOP CDM. And so I added 2 additional tables to capture the radiology procedure and the images from radiologics of corresponding radiology procedure. And in this data model, we do not store the images themselves. We only capture the pointer or path or URI for that image. And to standardize the procedure or vocabulary in metadata, we adopted RedLax system in Loink, which has been incorporated into AMOP vocabulary already too. So this is how we transform the metadata of DICOM into this radiology CDM. And if these are done, what can we do? We do have the patient level data, patient level prediction package or system in AMOP CDM to develop the standardized machine learning system. We in the patient level data, patient level prediction system, we use demographic, diagnosis, medication procedure, and lab value as features to predict clinical outcomes. And if we develop standardized imaging metadata, we can then the images themselves are can be queryable, and it is possible to derive features from images without access to that database, like in the distributed research network way. So by using both features from structured data and the unstructured data, we can develop the single machine learning system. And it was the pilot study that I tried to predict the poor functional outcome from the ischemic stroke based on the current OMOP-CDM data model without any access to the database. And we, in this machine learning algorithm, I used the latent features from non-contrast phase of brain CT. And there is a slight improvement of the performance in this prediction model. So this workup is now it was the previous radiology common data model proposal, and we are developing the new medical image CDM together with Paul Nadji, the professor in Hopkins. And we do have regular meetings, 4-week basis, alternative meeting, 7 a.m. EST, Wednesday EST, and 7 p.m. Wednesday EST. So even the overall meeting or occurred bi-weekly, but the single morning time or evening time meeting are held 4-week basis. The next meeting, we do have the medical imaging worker meeting in this morning in Korea. And 2 weeks later, we will have another meeting 8 p.m. In Korea. And a month later, we will have the another meeting at morning, in the morning. Thanks for joining this meeting and listening this introduction. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I think I was trying to unmute, but kind of really mute myself again. Yes. So thank you so much for the sharing. Do we have any questions from the audience? Cool.
Yeah, if not, we can move on.
All right, sounds good. So with that, I will start sharing the kind of the global from the global community call, the update we have from Clair, Blacketer, and from Jensen. And then she'll talk about the common data model working group and then the update. So with that, I will start sharing my screen.
And maybe give you some context of why we're so proud of version 5.4 and why we've set the goals that we have. So if you were at the 2019 OHDSI Symposium, some of this will look familiar to you. I did steal some of Patrick's visuals from that one, but I thought it was time for an update. And for those of you who remember, that was when Christian had to eat all that cake. All right, so the Observed Medical Outcomes Partnership started in 2007, and it started as a public-private partnership that was looking to understand how we could better use observational health data to inform drug safety research. So started in 2007, but the first version of the model actually came out in 2009. Come to find out, nobody actually used it. Patrick said you'd have to put data in 2 places, and no one wanted to do that. That's terrible. Let's move on. So they quickly moved to version 2. And this was the version of the model that actually was used to support all of the research that came out of OBOP. So this was a really important milestone for the group. Then version 3, we don't talk about version 3, but basically it was riddled with errors and no one really liked it. And so they just scrapped it and said, no, thank you. So they quickly released CDM version 4, and this was really the first version of the model that went beyond drug safety and started getting us closer to where we are today in terms of the depth and breadth of research that we are currently performing. And then in 2014, along with I think the day of the inception of OHDSI, Martine created our current common data model GitHub, and they released CDM version 5. So version 5 has been around for a long time, since 2014. But then we get to OHDSI, and that's really where the fun begins. So 2016, we saw a release of version 5.0.1. And then in quick succession, so I joined the working group somewhere between 2016 and 2017. I always think of it as like, it was like the summer after my son was born. So I was staying up late nights anyway. So I was like staying up late nights working in OHDSI common data model repo, which is super fun. So you'll see in quick succession, we had version 5.1, version 5.2 in 2017. We were like clearing out backlogs of things people wanted added to the model. And so we were quickly pushing these out. And that's when we updated some of our documentation. If you guys remember, we had our wiki that was out on the GitHub. And that was actually really helpful for people. People really liked seeing that. But it was really just a reiteration of the same kind of documentation we had before. If you remember, the concept IDs were described as like a foreign key to the standardized vocabulary. And those words were kind of reiterated over and over. They were really helpful at first, and so we moved them all to the wiki, and that made it much more accessible for people to understand our data tables. And then we released version 5.3 in 2018, and this is actually the version that many people are used to, either 5.3 or 5.3.1. That's the one that I think has the most staying power so far for the OHDSI community. And then in 2018, we also released CDM version 6. But I just want you guys to see between this like short, like 2-year stint, we released a ton of versions of the CDM. We were super ambitious. People had so many ideas and things they wanted done. For the most part, they worked out really well. But of course, we did have some stumbling blocks there. And while we were figuring out what we were doing, CDM version, we also worked on adding more documentation to what you see today. So we took actually a whole year between like 2019 and 2020. And I made everybody sit on the CDM working group calls with me, and we were actively typing the documentation for each of the tables. And that's what we have now with our really robust set of documents, which we added to this past year with our DocuSign and some of that other work we did to get ready for version 5.4. And so that's where we are today, version 5.4, with our brand new shiny R package that is small and sweet and very close to my heart because it's exactly what I want it to be. And I'm really, really thankful for all the support we've had from the entire community, as well as from the people who have been in the CDM working group for such a long period of time. But thinking back to this slide, that was a lot of updates to the model in a short period of time. And with the move to CDM version 5.4 and all the things we did last year, I kind of took the opportunity to think back since 2016, 2017, really kind of reflect on what have we learned, as a CDM working group. Because really, Christian, I went back into like the old wiki. I don't know if other folks, if you guys remember, there was like that old wiki. I can't even log in anymore because it wants like some kind of API key. You used to be able to just log in like with your Gmail. And I went back there and I looked actually in the record, and Christian started the CDM working group in January 2015, when like version 5.0 was released in October of 2014. So CDM working group has had some staying power for sure, but we've learned a lot over the years. And one of my main learnings I've come to find, and I think everybody would agree with me, the CDM is really like the foundation of everything we do. And when we have years like this, it's really innovative and really fun and really exciting. But that level of movement in the foundation can make it hard for the community to know, where are we going and what target do we need to be focusing on. So I'm really happy about that and really moving forward with version 5.4 because we're really, trying to tell all of you guys, like, we have strong faith in this version, and we're really happy with where it's at right now. We're going to be talking about some CDM extensions this year, but the canonical CDM isn't going to change too much in the near future. So really, what I was thinking about is we are responsible in the CDM working group for maintaining the model. So looking at all those updates, listening to the community, understanding your needs. We're responsible for documenting the model. So that's why we have so much documentation, and we're constantly adding to it to try to make it as unambiguous as possible as to what the model is, what it represents, and how you should use it. And then this last one, I think, is a newer one for us, but I think it's one that's really important and that we're trying to embrace this year. We're also responsible for promoting the OMOP CDM. And I think of it as promoting it within the community to say, target version 5.4, this is what we're proud of, this is the best version of the model right now, but also promoting it in terms of helping everybody get to the right version of the CDM, helping answer questions, support the community, and really being there for you guys when it comes to how do I use this thing? And a lot of times this is early collaborators, but it's really anybody. Anybody who has questions or concerns or doesn't know how to map certain types of data, we really want to be there for you. We're also there to make sure that we as a community are aligned on the path forward for the model. When we add a lot of different things, it's really fun and really exciting, and I think we've gotten to a great version with all those additions. But we also have to be aware that our community is growing rapidly, and with something like Darwin EU, we have to be very clear and very decisive, but also we have to make sure that we're making the right choices when we make any changes to the model. So that's why I'm saying at the last bullet, use case is everything. So if you bring us a new proposal for the CDM, just be aware we'll probably push back on you and ask you for your use case, because there's so many people relying on this model that we have to make sure that anything we do to it, any changes we make, will have a real use case and a real impact in our community moving forward. So with that, our OKR for the year is to promote the adoption of CDM version 5.4. No shocker there. So we want to host some CDM workshops, and we've got 2 coming up in March. But don't worry, I won't be leading them. I'm going to have other folks from the working group to it, so you don't have to listen to me prattle on about it, even though I love it. We're going to work to design a maturity model. So as I was saying, we want to focus on CDM extensions. There's some great work going on in the community around genomic data, imaging data, GIS data, so much stuff going on. And so we really want to get a handle on what those are and start designing a model to just understand, how mature are these different extensions, and just try to give some clarity to the community around those items. And then we're also going to try to build an OHDSI resource library. I was sitting with Craig and he was showing me the existing web page on OHDSI.org that describes the model, and it could use some updating. And as I was thinking about that, I really feel like we could also use a nice resource library for some of those newcomers and really anybody. We have links and posts and things here, there, and everywhere, and really just a nice spot where all that could live, I think would be really helpful for the community.
Cool. So that's the update for. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. So that was the update from Claire on the common data model. I think it was great to actually hear about the history. Now that it's only, I shouldn't say only 10 years ago or so. It sounds like a very long time, but you know, kind of how we developed from the original 1.0 or 3.0 that we never talk about to where we are now. I think that's a great history lesson on the OMOP CDM too, as well as the update, of course. So any questions or comments from the audience? So Chen, I see you nodding. I was just wondering because I think among us, you probably were one of the earliest APAC folks to join CDM. Like I'm just gonna do a quick, I don't know if count it as an interview, but like how was the CDM more like when you first started like using or learning it? Like, I don't know, 5 years ago, how long ago?
So I think that I remember that the 5.0 was the first CDM version I used, and before I joined this OHDSI network, they used version 4, and after the adopting version 5, we were really ambitious, and we just create the next version at almost every year, and then I just see that we had the version 6, but we found that it is not actually coordinated between the CDM work group was not coordinated with the other working groups or other the OHDSI tools and when they make the CDM version 6. So
Yep.
6 is logically super, but it is not supported by the OHDSI tools. So if we adopt version 6, then we need to change every OHDSI tools in GitHub. So it was not feasible at the time. So that's why we just take back to the version 5.4. Actually, at the time, we just take back to the 5.3, and then we just move on to the 5.4. So that's why we did not use the version 6. And I do believe that actually, almost zero institution adopts the version 6. And
yeah, I know one of the China OMOP collaborator. They were on 6.0, and then we kind of explain what you just explained, and then everyone kind of just and then we went back to the 5.3 as you said, because otherwise you cannot really use all of the tools which are amazing. But I think that was the short. I think it was 3 years ago or something, or 2 years ago, when that happened, and then kind of we all went back to
it is not it is really easy to convert the version 6 to version 5. So
back to yeah, exactly. Cool.
and my institution is adopting version 5 for 5.4 now.
Yeah, 5.4 exactly. Cool. All right, thank you, Jen. I thought that was just interesting how far we have come along from 1.0 to 6, and now we're back to 5.4, which is great too.
Indeed.
Cool, thank you. All right, so with that, I'll then kind of play the work group update on the data quality. It's a very short one, but just want to let everyone hear about that really quick. All right, so
now moving into the data quality working group, I'm going to take you back to the future. Okay, this is a really lame pun. So thinking about the future of OHDSI, Patrick brings this slide up a lot, but our goal this year is to engineer an open science system. And really where I see the data quality working group falling within this is this data diagnostics piece. And when I say data diagnostics, I think of two questions, and apologies if you've heard me say this before, but this is really how I kind of think about it in my brain. One, does a database have the necessary elements required to perform a study? And two, are those elements of a high enough quality such that we can trust the evidence generated? So really, my plan is, and we've talked about this in the data quality working group, we really want to focus on, once we know a database has the necessary elements required for a study, how can we determine if they're of high quality? So that's really what our OKR is structured on. So we want to create a study-specific filter for the data quality dashboard. We want to close at least some issues and pull requests on the data quality dashboard GitHub, and we want to update our documentation to reflect those new features. And so, I'll post some links in the chat to the data quality dashboard, but we've got some really fun, exciting updates coming. So I didn't want to give you a screenshot of the old one because we've actually got some collaborators who've been working really hard on generating a new version of our app, and I really want to share that with you, hopefully in the next coming months.
All right, so stay tuned for the data quality updates, data quality dashboard updates. All right, so the last but not least, we'll be sharing the Atlas Workgroup update from Anthony Sena.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to provide a quick update on the Atlas Working Group for the current year. I'm doing this on behalf of the other work group leads, which include Alexi and Chris. And I guess the first thing to note is that our work group has been on pause for the last couple of years. So the first most important update is that we are back. We held our first meeting earlier in February, which also happened to be a 2/2/22 date, but just with one less to do. And our mission as a working group is to provide a forum for the OHDSI community of developers that are interested in improving the open source software solutions of Atlas and WebAPI. And these tools aim to provide capabilities to design standardized analytics to execute on the OMOP common data model. And since our working group has a technical bend to it, I wanted to just take a moment to kind of remind folks that may not be familiar with the architecture involved with Atlas, what are the key components and what technologies are involved. So to start, it all starts with the OMOP common data model. So you need to have at least one or maybe more databases converted to the OMOP CDM. Once you've kind of reached that milestone, you can start to install the other parts of the tool stack, which include WebAPI. And WebAPI is a Java component with a Postgres database that's used to basically provide the plumbing between your OMOP common data model and the web application of Atlas. And so it contains a number of APIs that can be called to kind of like the basic plumbing work, which is like saving and retrieving information. And then the other part of the stack is the Atlas front end. It's a JavaScript application that is used to design the different elements of an observational study. So as we've been progressing through Phenotype February, hopefully you've had an opportunity to at least see some screen clips of Atlas or even go in and play around in the demo environment that we had. So really kind of working left to right, you're going to have the databases, you will have a Java REST API, and then on the right here, a JavaScript layer. So if you're familiar with these technologies or you would like to get familiar with these technologies, then this is a good working group if you'd like to hear more about that. So to talk a little bit about the current state of affairs with Atlas and WebAPI, I just wanted to highlight a few opportunities and challenges within the community. So first, installing and deploying Atlas and WebAPI can be difficult. I'd say there's a pretty high bar of technical understanding. that requires you to understand a bit about the infrastructure that you want to use for deployment, some of the development tools that are used in the deployment process, and then different ways in which you might want to deploy the tools in your environment. There are a number of options available to the community, such as using things like BroadC, which provides a Dockerized container for these tools. We have instructions on how to install these tools on your PC or your Mac. And we also have options for deploying these tools in the cloud. But it's not always easy to find this documentation or just kind of have a cohesive set of instructions for how you might go about deploying these tools. The other challenge or opportunity we have is the code documentation. So it's hard to know what already exists in WebAPI and how to make use of it. Or if you run into a problem with Atlas, how might you go about finding the JavaScript classes or components that are used and potentially causing the problem. So with these in mind, we've developed two key objectives and key results that we're aiming to accomplish in this first quarter. The first objective is to improve the deployment of Atlas and WebAPI. And to do that, we've defined two key results to start the year. So the first is to kind of develop a document that just describes where the current process is for deploying Atlas and WebAPI and pull together the resources that already exist. And as part of developing that document, we want to identify limitations and opportunities to make the deployment process easier or more accessible. And then our second objective is to improve the overall documentation of Atlas and WebAPI. So this is focused on two key results, which is to document 100% of the WebAPI endpoints, and then update the README of the WebAPI GitHub page to just reference this newly updated documentation. So to close it out, when and where do we meet? So the first Wednesday of the month is when we plan to meet, and our next meeting is set for March 2nd at 9 a.m. And if you want to access the Teams channel and join us, you could use the OHDSI Working Group Microsoft form and just check off the Atlas Working Group as part of your selection. And that's it from me.
All right, cool. So that's the fourth working group updates we have for today. So any questions or comments from the audience? I know Atlas one, like it was the newest release last fall, I remember. I think that was the one that now it included multi-language. I think more importantly, especially for APAC folks, that now it has Korean and Chinese and Russian on it, not only just English version. So I think like for my institution, we have the newest version, and I think there are a lot of other great new features for it. So I think definitely it would be great for us to have an even better Atlas going forward. Cool. And then if there's no questions, I just want to do a final kind of a preview for our next community call in 2 weeks on April the 21st. So we'll be inviting all of our 4 APAC studies that everyone selected from last year to come and join us for a quick quarterly update on all of the different studies. So we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes each, 10 minutes update, and also we'll open up for questions. And also another time for us to get to know more about APAC studies and join them. Contribute whatever. I think that would be a great learning for everyone as well. So please stay tuned and join us next time. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.